The Pittsburgh Panthers have secured 10 commitments since Friday. We're going to break that down and a bunch more commitments here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. We're going to be talking about the Pittsburgh Panthers in an insane recruiting run. They have 10 commitments since Friday. That will be the leadoff, but we also have a bevy of schools starting to add commitments again that are really important. USC dips into Georgia, gets a really good defense back. We're going to talk about Wisconsin. They've gotten 5 commitments of late. We're also going to talk about Oklahoma, Texas. The Horns just got a really good receiver that I think is vastly underrated, and several more programs as well, like Florida and Florida State. They picked up key commitments as well. And to finish off, some more comments about the House settlement. I've had the opportunity to speak with a few lawyers. What's going to happen? What's going to be the probable way that the lawsuits will be formed, and how the NCAA and some important people in government, Trump, Senate, House, all that stuff, they're all talking who is going to make these decisions and when. I have my own opinions on that at the end of the show. But first, as I noted, look, you can say whatever you want, but 10 commitments in any short period, week, 10 days, is super impressive. 10 commitments from a Friday through a Monday morning, that's next level stuff. Pittsburgh, that's not normal. And I'm going to take a look at the list again for my own good, but I was going through it this morning. Like Jaden Dunbar is a kid that I know from Thomas County Central. And this is the first thing. It's not just local kids either that Pitt's getting from like Pittsburgh Central Catholic or Penn Hills, schools that are around the area. They're getting young men from all over the country. Multiple guys from Texas, South Georgia. They got a kid from Clearwater High School. They got a player from Norfolk, Virginia. They got a kid out of Baltimore. It's all over the place. Whatever the Pittsburgh Panthers are doing, tip of the cap, you have earned every bit of that, because 10 in a short period, I don't care what the rankings are for kids. The organization to get that done, the planning to make that happen, as somebody who follows recruiting religiously as I do, that is absolutely astronomical. And to be honest with you, I didn't think they would have a great class this year because it's Pittsburgh. They just don't normally do that. So when I looked at the list and I started counting, I'm like, wait a minute, how many they got here? I was just looking at the most recent commitments, and I'm like, keep seeing Pitt. What's going on? Rivals.com does their own way of putting their commitment list up. And they had 10 in a row. 10 in a row from Friday till now. So here are some of the guys that I know about. I don't know all these kids, but again, Jaden Dunbar, he's underrated by Rivals. They don't have him ranked. I think they should. 6'5", about 180 pounds. He's a wide receiver at Thomas County Central, one of the best programs in the South, extremely well-coached football team. They won state title a couple years ago. They also got Isaiah Simmons. He's a linebacker out of Norfolk, Virginia at Amari High School. That's a kid that can really run. Narduzzi's defense, the way it sets up, they need speed, and they've had some really good linebackers the last several years. I think that will work out very, very well for them. They also got a defensive end that kind of fits their profile. They got a couple of linemen. They've also brought in some players on the defensive side that kind of fit that big body that you need. Is this the most unique trend they've had since like Tony Dorsett was there with recruiting? They had his senior class was like 70 players. That's a different era where you could take as many guys as you wanted. But I don't know when the last time they had a run like this. Again, I don't know all these players, but I'm just going to say congrats to the Pittsburgh Panthers. As for the rest of the commitments. Just want to kind of go down the list. Some of the guys that I know, I'm not naming everybody because we are officially in commitment season now. It's full on. But here are some of the key guys. Cohen Brown, Waxahachie High School, wide receiver. He can fly. One of the fastest kids in Texas, and that's saying something. And he's explosive after the catch. That's a big commitment for Steve Sarkisian and his staff. They're going after some speedy guys at receiver, Notre Dame and Texas A&M and LSU and all these schools coming in to compete. Cohen Brown is a guy that I think he's not quite what I would call a polished receiver, but with the elite coaching that Texas has, this is a guy that can be a 3-and-out player. The explosiveness he has, the ability to change directions. Yeah, he needs to clean up some things with his eye discipline and where he uses his hands and catching the ball. But you can't teach the physical traits. Cohen Brown is a dude. Florida State gets on the board with a much-needed commitment, and it's a nose guard / defensive tackle. An under-the-radar player. This is a Bobby Bowden special, as I call it when I do Locked On Seminoles. Whitley Cadeau. Defensive tackle, 6'5", 290, 300, somewhere in that range. Very athletic, wide-bodied guy, and he's got the ability to change directions. How he's not ranked higher, I have no idea. Great job by the Florida State staff to get him committed. Their rival, the Florida Gators, didn't get one. They got two really good players yesterday. First off, Justin Williams, wide receiver, Buchholz High School. They're in Gainesville. Athletic as all get out. And his hands are as good as it gets. He had a catch on his highlight film from his junior year over the shoulder, and he kind of overran it. So he just kind of fell down, literally, backwards, catching the football right up against the sideline. As good a catch as you would see in the NFL. This is the kind of guy that also has the speed and the balance after contact to make plays. I think Justin will play slot. We'll see if he can move outside, but he's got the athleticism that you need to play in the SEC. They also got Chancellor Campbell, the, shall we say, prototypical ball of clay that you wanted offensive tackle. He's about 6'8". I had a chance to see him at Under Armour in Orlando earlier this year. There just aren't many guys like him that have that kind of frame. He's out of Lakewood High School in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's a famous program that sent kids to all the big three, Notre Dame, Michigan, anywhere else that wants to recruit for. They're going to go through that high school. This is a kid that could end up being Florida's left tackle for a couple of years. He's roughly 300 pounds, and he's about 6'8". He's got some enormous hands and feet. I think he's going to be 325-pound offensive tackle. We'll see how he develops. But Florida needed O-lineman. They went and got him. How about Oklahoma getting a steal here? I love the way that Brent Venables recruits defensive players. He recruits to his scheme. His scheme. Matthew Nelson, 6'5", 215. He's out of Bryan, Arkansas. Didn't really know much about him, so I looked up his huddle film. He is very disciplined. He's been coached. Hats off to whoever has trained him at any point because he doesn't overrun plays. He stays low. He's very long and athletic, which obviously is a great starting point, but he will break down, chase the ball laterally. He uses great effort, but that first step in his length, can't teach it. And we know Venables understands defensive scheme. I think that Matthew Nelson's a kid that's going to be a problem for teams at the University of Oklahoma. Wisconsin, a little bit of two things here. Since June, they've gotten 5 commitments, but they did lose a key defensive lineman that I've talked about. I'm a little down on the Badgers right now overall, but they have gotten 5 commitments. They got a couple tight ends. They got a really good defensive lineman in DJ Baugh that I really like out of Germantown, Tennessee. I think that kid's a steal for the Badgers. The next week or two, really, really important for everything Wisconsin football recruiting. They need to get corners, receivers that can be impact players, and then just edge guys, meaning defensive ends that can get after it or offensive tackles that are big time. They've missed on some in-state offensive linemen. Really, really surprising. Let's see what Wisconsin does coming up. And then Ohio State, out of Delaware, Ohio, Hayes High School, Favor, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, and my apologies, A-K-I-H, Akai, I'm not sure how you say it, running back. That's a pretty good player. The Buckeyes keep one home, and that's a really important thing for them because, quite frankly, they're at a point now where it's hard to get elite kids at any spot because playing time is hard to get. They're in on a lot of guys, Carson Baker, et cetera, at running back, but we'll see how that goes. I think he's, by the way, going to end up playing for the Gators, but there's a lot of talent at Ohio State. So they've got some tough decisions to make on some of the guys on their board. Do they go ahead and take them now or not? We'll see what happens with them. But right now, Ohio State does have a very good class. When I come back, we're going to talk about the House settlement. Some things I learned from some lawyers and some different opinions. This is very complex. Who's going to be impacted the most, the least? That is next here on the Portal Podcast. The NBA Finals are through Game 2, and every night has been delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. The next game will be Wednesday night as the Pacers are now tied up with OKC as OKC put it to the Pacers last night. And this is a pivotal game. Whoever wins this gets a leg up. The Pacers do not hold serve at home. It's going to be really, really hard. But again, 7:30 Eastern time Wednesday night. And FanDuel makes it easy to get in on that action before tip-off and live. You got player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, all make it easy. My curious question here for the Game 3, Halliburton wasn't his self for the Pacers in Game 2. Is he ready to take that step? If not, maybe you go under on some prop bets with him, maybe a same-game parlay. If you are new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. The winner gets you $200. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen. Truly appreciate you stopping in. We're going to be doing a lot of different commitment breakdowns and a lot of different things in regards to what's next with recruiting, previewing recruitments and their visits, who it's coming down to, deciding points, all that right here on the Portal Podcast. So like and subscribe, and please share this podcast with anybody that you know. Thank you once again for that and this opportunity. I've been waiting forever to get this information, and I'm glad to get this out of my gut, because I'm like, finally some information from a lawyer. I had a few different people that I reached out to, and this is what I got. I asked, how can you settle this case with the House settlement and say that you can determine what the value of some player is, especially like a teenager going into college? How do you do that? How is that legal? I had one lawyer tell me that there are people that determine the value of somebody. I still don't understand how that works, especially with the political side of this, because these are a lot of kids that come from nothing. Limiting their pay at all, that's very, very touchy. And I think there'll be lawsuits with that pending. And I'll get to the timing of that momentarily, but hold on to that point. The bigger thing I was told was, again, that there are some groups that this is what the structure should be. My rebuttal is still the same. How do you do that with college football when the local car dealership, the local bank, the local restaurant, they can bring that young man or woman in, say, we want you to work here 5 hours a week, or do some ads for us, do a commercial spot, whatever it is, we value at X. The clearinghouse that's going along with the House settlement, it's going to allegedly, and I don't know how you could do this in a timely fashion, because you can't, go through and look at every deal that's over $600 that is not from the $20.5 million that each school will pay directly to the players. It's partitioned here. It's separate. Now you're going to have these collectives that are a separate entity. So any deal they do legally, which, by the way, there's going to be a ton of illegal activity again if they start Xing these deals. It's just going to go back to old school bags in a Walmart bag or a McDonald's bag. Like, that's coming. But if they are over $600, they got to go through this clearinghouse. Do we really think that's going to work in a timely fashion? Let me answer that for you. No, there's zero chance of that. If you're a kid that has 4 scholarships, you're trying to figure out between your final 4, but each of those schools need you to make a decision now because they got somebody else that might commit. They got a pecking order, and you're waiting on the clearinghouse at your favorite school to figure it out. Maybe somebody else committed to that other school, and then the next one. It doesn't work. It's too slow. It's too monotonous. And as usual, government bureaucracy. There is no way, just with football, this time of year, that it's going to work. So with all of that, back to the point that I made a minute ago, let's talk about the commitments and the players and where they're going and all that stuff. But the key point, how do you change what their value is? If somebody wants to pay another person more, as I grew up, your value is what somebody will pay you, or an item's value, a car, a house, anything. Doing this is going to be touchy. From the Warriors that I spoke to, the one consensus that I got, this might hold short term, but they expect it to get ugly. And the key was still the same words that ADs and all these different people didn't want to hear about. Employee. You cannot have a reduced amount of pay unless the employee, and in this case, they're not. For the record, players are not employees under this. The NCAA wants no part of it. The schools want no part of it because they don't want to pay benefits and all that other stuff down the road, injuries and all that stuff. That's what they don't want. And they're going to end up having to do it. It's going to happen, but it's not yet. I was told that because they're not employees, that gets really touchy. And they think in a few years, this will really get ugly. How quickly it develops, nobody knows. I don't know. The people that I spoke with didn't know. And again, these are people far more educated on this than I am. So they're literally lawyers. I'm not sure, but I still think before the end of this year, if they start nixing deals that go through the clearinghouse especially and tick people off, if any school loses a player because of this, there are going to even be some schools turned against this. There might be different members of the athletic department that are on different sides of this. It will get very convoluted because the coaches want the kids to commit. If the deals are getting slowed down over here, but a deal that kid might have with another school that's recruiting them gets approved and you lose that kid because of the clearinghouse, do you really think that coach who needs that player to win and keep his job is going to be supportive? No, I wouldn't either. Why would you? So this has a lot of pinholes in it, and the boat could sink a little quicker because those pinholes could become cannonball size holes. I also think that by December, there'll be somebody that's formulated a lawsuit, and that's a lot of paperwork and a lot of different people getting together. That's why it won't just be boom. It won't be a bunch of different ones. They're going to be together. And I'd imagine that the massive lawsuit, there's probably multiple lawsuits that could happen, but there'll be a handful of law firms get together, try to figure it out, and the players will join it because this is going to get sued to the umpteenth degree. I'm predicting, nobody else here, but I'm predicting before the end of the year that's going to happen. We'll see. But for now, again, I didn't have any lawyer that said this is going to get shot down immediately, meaning there'll just be lawsuit. It's going to take a little time to dig in. And the final piece here is they're still working it out. And I don't know if Saban's still going to be involved or anything. I didn't ask. But Notre Dame's athletic director, along with the commissioner of the SEC, were just golfing with Trump. They're trying to figure this out. Those two together means that this House settlement case, how the playoff works, all this different stuff, there are a lot of different things going on. And I'm sure many other people, the ACC commissioner, the Big 12, the Big 10, they're all trying to find their own place to get their individual representatives the best deals, their teams, their players. So there's going to be some backdoor deals on this, but I still think at the end of the day, the House settlement, while it has some good parts to it, you cannot have the clearinghouse because it's too slow. It doesn't work, especially in June and July when all these kids commit. And I just don't think that long-term, again, not short-term, long-term, you're going to be able to say this kid is worth that and this kid is worth that when they might get a whole lot more money locally, let alone from the corporate world, because some restaurant or car dealership, whatever it may be, is willing to pay them for a legitimate business. That's going to be tough. So we'll see how that goes. But in the next week or two, hopefully there's more finality and there's more details. Maybe a lawyer will even come out and do his own podcast and give a better detail than I can. I'd love to hear it. And if you're a lawyer out there that wants to comment, please, by all means. I spoke to a few. It doesn't mean they're the only ones. I need to hear more and more, and we need to see the timing of this. It will be interesting, to say the least. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. We are here, free and available whenever you want to come check us out. Team previews, player rankings, position rankings. I've got a little bit of everything. But the next month is going to be a lot of individual team profiles with 2 or 3 commitments. It could be Wisconsin, it could be USC, it could be Texas A&M, it could be anybody. Whoever's hot, that's who we're going to talk about here on the Portal Podcast. So like and subscribe, share this podcast, and please comment down below. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.